November 19th, 2022. Well, before I get into the some issues on the latest updates on the election, I want to hit some other areas. I haven't talked a whole lot about the Ukraine war, and of course, we do have a major announcement on the Trump situation as well, of course, as you probably have heard about. But first of all, on Ukraine, I would say that after the Russians have, of course, abandoned Kherson and pulled back. And pulled all the troops that were on the west side out. And probably, my opinion is that these troops are being held in reserve against a potential Ukrainian attack from is it Zaporizhia, how you pronounce it, area where the big nuclear reactors are, that attack down from that area south and try to cut the Russian system's position in two. And so they probably brought these troops back to be a reserve to counter that. And they probably get them a little bit of rest and rehabilitation, perhaps integrating some of these reservists that have been mobilized and to deal with that. So that's one thing that's happening there. The other thing, and a major interesting development today, however you want to look at it, it's turning out that that missile that went into Poland apparently was a Ukrainian anti-aircraft missile. But I think that what seems to be going on here is that it's quite possible that in fact it was a false flag attempt made by somebody in Ukraine. And probably not the president or the official government, but maybe somebody at a lower level got the idea that right in the middle of a missile attack, let's fire one of them into Poland and then try to blame it on the Russians. And hope to get NATO to come in and give them more support because they're getting some pretty serious pounding. Then, more recently, something developed which is kind of ominous. A cruise missile was sent in and shot down by the Ukrainians, and instead of having an conventional explosive warhead, it had a dummy nuclear warhead. Not a real one, but just basically something would take the place of one in a test vehicle. So that you could, because you have weights and balances issues that you have to handle with any kind of flying vehicle, and the cruise missile is an aircraft really. And so it looks like that's what this really is. It's a dummy, but it also kind of leaves you with a question that it would have obviously hit something anyhow, and the Ukrainians would have seen what it was. Is this some sort of a not too veiled nuclear threat? At the same time, the Russians are testing out their, command and control aircraft that Putin would fly in if they're going into nuclear combat, and they're testing it out apparently to see how well it can contact the submarines, presumably VLF. So that's another development that's underway that we're kind of facing here. So it all looks like there's some kind of real tension there. Furthermore, that we don't know. We have all kinds of conflicting reports on what the Russians are doing. There is an offensive with this Wagner group that's going on in the Donbass region, and apparently there's like 30,000 Russians fighting 20,000 Ukrainians that are pretty well dug in. And it's a pretty nasty, high casualty battle, I guess. So that's going on. Meanwhile, this massive group of Russian reservists have been mobilized and are in some form of training. There's all kinds of talk about, well, obviously everybody isn't completely happy, but I'm not sure whether or not that really, actually means a lot. But anyway, we'll have to just wait and see what happens. But these developments are not totally reassuring, let's put it that way. On the other hand, the NATO forces have 5 carrier strike groups deployed around the European region. And of course, the USS Rhode Island and Ohio class nuclear ballistic missile submarine has moved into the Mediterranean. So anyway, all these developments are going on, and we'll just have to wait and see what they portend. So if you like these videos, please give me a like. It helps the algorithm. We need some more subscriptions, of course. Then you can forward links to this to any friends that might be interested. So, at any rate, that's enough rundown Ukraine. I want to get back to the domestic politics here, like I promised at the beginning. I guess the biggest thing is that the DOJ has announced the appointment of a special counsel to investigate Trump on the charges of the documents that he had at Mar-a-Lago that was in the raid, and also to see if he had done something to improperly try to influence the electoral vote count. And so the person that was appointed here is a real well, he's the guy who um, prosecuted Governor McDonnell in Virginia some time back. And I think that kind of indicates that this was a decision which he'd won at the lower court, but it was unanimously struck down by the Supreme Court. So, in other words, liberal and conservative justices all agreed this was an improper conviction. So, this guy is, I think, a real headhunter, very dangerous individual. So, just as I said in my previous video, I believe that it's the intention of the Biden administration to prosecute Trump in order to try to prevent him from being able to run for president. And we'll again have to keep tabs on this and see how things go forward. But I think that's what's afoot. I don't think this is a bluff. We'll have to see what venues. I would presume the ones about the electoral vote will be tried in D.C., which is a very unfavorable venue for President Trump. And of course, the Mar-a-Lago thing, I'm not sure whether that'll be D.C. or whether it will be in Miami, Southern District of Florida. So we'll have to just wait and see how that all turns out. But it's not. It's going to be a real problem for the Trump team, I think. So on the election itself, good news is we did win Colorado 3. I think with a little over 551. I think last I saw 554 vote margin. The Democrat conceded, so I guess they won't have a recount, which he could have had because it was close enough to have an automatic recount. But I guess I'll just suspend that since he conceded, and he intends to file to run against Congress Lady Boebert next in 2024. But that's good. That's our 219th position, and we need some more seats. I mean, trying to govern with just 218. I mean, that's a very precarious hold. I'd like to have a little bit more. It looks like pretty much the Democrats that are going to win have pretty much been picked. The only one that isn't officially declared is the one in Alaska, which they're going to get because of ranked choice voting. That is a disaster. I mean, what's with these two Republicans up there? I mean, when they realize that they continue this, that they're splitting the vote roughly 50-50, there's no way either of them can win to continue this, and neither of them will agree to pull out and further support to the other one. I mean, what kind of silliness is that? But anyhow, so hopefully we can get rid of ranked choice voting up there next year, I think when the 2-year limit expires. I think that's what's required in order for the legislature to change it, because apparently there's a rule up there in their constitution that a proposition passed by the people can't be reversed within 2 years, apparently. That's my understanding. If there's anybody in Alaska that wants to correct me or knows, please give me a comment. But that's my understanding. But otherwise, we have three races in California where the Republicans are still leading as the votes come in. There's 2 of them, I think we have a reasonable lead of 4 or 5%, I think, and the other one is very close, maybe less than 1%. And that's the one with Duarte as a Republican. So a good hope that we'll get at least 2 out of 3, and maybe all 3. I think we'll just have to wait and see. The California system is strange how slow the votes come in, and I would think by now they'd have all the mail-in ballots by now, but the way they do things out there is a little confusing. It's even more goofy than Colorado's is. But we'll wait and see on that. But the best we could get, like I said before, will be 222, and we'll hopefully get that, or maybe 221. Hopefully 222. Everyone at this point counts. It gives you a little bit of margin because you can always have a kind of a person that won't go along with the bill you want to pass. So you need to have as many as you can to allow for a defector or two. That's kind of important. And we're still going to have a bit of a battle getting Kevin McCarthy picked as speaker. I mean, because of all these dissident conservatives that are always acting. I don't understand why people don't like him. He's so much better than anybody the Republicans had as a leader since Newt Gingrich. I mean, and who's the great guy that's all that fantastic? I mean, you need to have somebody that can actually, you know, present themselves well on national TV. Yeah, there's people that have better ideology, but they're going to come off and not be very, very good for public appearances. And the job here largely is to be a consensus builder within in the caucus, anyhow. And so maybe I'm deviating from what some of you guys think, but that's my viewpoint. That I'm into practical results, not into making some kind of wild statement or something, you know. And as you can see, on the other hand, when somebody like you know, Lauren Boebert, actually I pronounce her name, I support her to the hilt too. It's not that. It's the question of, you know, putting an organization together that spans all the people that are in the Congress and getting them to work together. You need to have a consensus builder to kind of, you know, run back and forth between the differing factions. So at any rate, we're kind of optimistic. That's kind of where it's looking at for the time being. And of course, we're sort of hoping that, you know, that, well, they're already talking about launching some investigations into the Biden and Hunter and all his business dealings. And of course, there's a variety of other things to investigate. We need to really kind of get into some of these strange FBI operations that are going on. And I think also, you know, the border. I mean, we need to drag these Homeland Security people in and grill them pretty hard on what you're doing with the border. I mean, right now, the problem has been that the Democrats in control kind of control who comes in and what you do. And so that will reverse once we get in, and that should be a good thing. So at any rate, so keep in touch on those final few races and hope we win them. And I guess that's about it for now. I will, you might check in the description below. I did this on the last one, but I didn't tell anybody, so I don't know if anybody saw it, but I was putting a few little update comments in the description as things happened. Rather than just trying to make a whole new video or edit the video, I just kind of put a few descriptions when something changed, you know, because races were being decided during that time period. And so, at any rate, and of course, I'll be posting this on Rumble also, as well as on the YouTube. And of course, my social media accounts, the addresses are in the description below. And we'll conclude this for now, and until next time.